Hello friends, this is Worm, and it is Wednesday, which means it's time for another episode of What If Wednesday, the series where we talk about weird, wacky, wild what ifs of Destiny 2. And today, we're going to talk about a comment from a longtime viewer here on the channel, Broderick Foster. So thank you for making this comment, because this actually gave me a lot of time to kind of think deep about this subject. But before we go any further, I'm just going to go ahead and read his comment here so that we can get a basis of what we're talking about. I know they've moved away from seasons, but at the same time, I wish we had some seasons/episodes which are dedicated to improving our destinations. Think of like Black Armory fleshing out EDZ. What if an entire episode was dedicated to finding a new section of Europa which expands it, similar to Plaguelands or Shadow Keep? I think it would be a great way to keep stories and destinations relevant. Like, when's the last time you went to Europa to do something and not just a strike being out there? Sorry, and not just a strike being out there or being there, but like willingly going and exploring. The adventure system helped a lot with this, but nowadays a newer variant which could keep destinations going throughout a year would be nice. Do you have any thoughts on how some older destinations could be kept interesting when every year brings new things and the helm takes us away from the main game for the year? So this is a really good comment. Like I said, it gave me time to think about it. Basically, Broderick Foster, he's 100% on the he's right about this. Okay, destinations have been neglected. Okay, like seriously, like one of the most neglected destinations in my opinion is Nessus. Like I literally have never been to Nessus, like, or not never, but I haven't been to Nessus just, you know, for patrol reasons in years. I really think the only reason they keep Nessus around is because that's one of the spots Xur goes to. And I guess there's a couple good strikes, but we also know that strikes don't necessarily mean this is the reason why we are keeping this, you know, this destination here. I really don't know why Nessus is relevant to the, you know, to the story of Destiny 2, and I don't know why it's still in the game. And Europa kind of the same way. We got Europa with not Lightfall. We got Europa with Beyond Lights, and it was awesome for a little while, but then it's, I mean, I don't go there anymore. You know, I know that there's some YouTubers that go there for like damage testing on the one of the captains that spawns consistently, but outside of that, I don't see anybody going to Europa. So what Broderick Foster here has kind of proposed is, what if Bungie takes you know, these seasons, or now we're moving into episodes, and uses this as an opportunity to flesh out some of our patrol zones even better. And you know, he brings up Black Armory fleshing out the EDZ, and that it did do that. You know, it gave us some more areas, you know, Hangman's Pass or whatever it was called, I can't remember the exact name of the location, but it did kind of flesh out the area. And I think that's, you know, I think this was a great thing that Black Armory did do. Like, it brought out, you know, some more reasons to go into the patrol world, you know, albeit you typically only went to like one specific area. Like on Nessus, you went to the Forge, the Gofanon Forge and stuff like that. But I mean, he's right here. Black Armory did do that very well, and I think that this is something that Bungie has really been lacking on, and especially, as he mentions in his comment here, the helm. The helm has been a major, I hate saying issue, but it's been a major problem child of this, you know, of making planets relevant. Because yes, each season there's like a relevant like destination associated with it, you know, such as Season of the Deep. For example, Season of the Deep was on Titan, which, granted, Titan's not in the game, so maybe that's a bad example, but let's say Season of the Witch, last season. You know, we had Season of the Witch that made Savathun's throne world relatively, you know, somewhat relevant, which was great, except for the fact that literally everything you needed to do took place at the helm. And I think that one of the best ways we can start by doing that is moving things away from the helm and onto the actual planet itself. You know, the helm, obviously we go here, it's go talk to this person in the helm, go do this, you know, this quest, go talk to this person in the helm, go do this set of just random tasks, killing enemies, stuff like that, go to the helm, go do the seasonal activity. And I think that just, we could cut out the middleman here, and we could start putting these vendors or whatever on the planets that they're associated with. I mean, I think that's just a small step in the right direction, because I mean, the reality is, of course, you know, no, it's not fun to go to a destination and have to fly all the way to wherever to talk, but like, it gets us in those patrol modes. But I think that's just a start. I don't think that's enough. I think that another thing that Bungie could do to make our destinations more relevant is to bring life back to them. Give us a reason to go to these destinations. And we've talked about it in a video before. You know, I've made comments about potentially adding exotic quests associated with the various planets. Like, hey, you've got to go in here, and like while you're patrolling the planet, you have a random chance of opening a chest and getting an exotic quest. And that's the only way you can get this exotic quest and the associated exotic with it. So if, you know, they're coming out with a Nessus exotic, you've got to go to Nessus, you've got to farm chests, you know, you got to open heroic public event chests, stuff like that, you know, to get us interacting with the world. But not only that, but have specific tasks like that need to take place on the planet, and not just go do public events, go kill, you know, enemies on this planet. Like specific things like, hey, go and find, you know, a specific captain that has a very low spawn chance, you know, and you don't, there's no calculated spawn chance. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, I see, you know, this captain that I have to kill. Like, I need to go after him and kill him. Like, he'll spawn and eventually he'll despawn, you know, he'll run across, you know, an area or something like that, trying to despawn. He's trying to get away. So you have to be actively playing on the planet that you're, you know, that the quest is associated with, and you have to actively be like hunting this thing down. Now, I think that maybe one of the double-edged swords of that is, if it's a random chance, how many players are actually going to take the time to go and like commit to that random chance? Like, maybe not like just straight random, but, you know, something similar to that. You know, have an exotic quest where there's unique enemies that's, you know, you have to go kill, and then you know, you have to do a very specific public event that takes place on this planet, and not just a specific public event, but like an actual neat, like revamped you know, public event. You know, like take the ether supply, you know, with the servitor and whatnot. Perhaps there's a different variant of that where the ether servitor is now infused with Siva, and you have to kill it in a certain way, and you know, stuff like that. I think that would be a really fun way to interact with the world. It would spice up public events, because it's like, hey, we have an epic public event coming in, and if we make it heroic, then, you know, this is how we progress the exotic quest or something like that. But, you know, an exotic quest, I think, could be a great way to have players interact with the world. But I also think that bringing in just you know, something as simple as cosmetic items to these worlds, you know, a new armor set to the worlds that has a low drop chance. You know, Nessus, for example, has the Exodus set. I can't remember the exact name of it for each of the classes, but the Exodus set, you know, like, yeah, that's there, but maybe they bring in a new set that looks really, really cool. But again, you have to do public events, and it's a random low drop chance, you know. And when I say low, I mean like really, really low. And this is one of the things that I know a lot of people are going to like probably disagree with, but another game that I play a lot is Fallout 76, and there are certain cosmetic items that have literally in that game have literally like a 0.02% drop chance. Okay, and they're really rare and coveted items. I think that adding some cosmetics like that to Destiny 2, adding some shaders, adding some unique armor sets, you know, emblems, something like that, could potentially bring players back into that. Especially, like, I know emblems and shaders, players love to collect those things. You know, armor sets, you know, you see them once, it's like, okay, I don't care for it, I don't care about doing it. But the shaders, players love to collect shaders, they love to collect emblems, and I think that having, you know, these just random chance, you know, doing a public event, opening a chest, collecting a world, what is it called, like the, you know, not phase glass needles, those are gone, spin metal or something like that, you know, has a random chance to award this super ultra rare shader or this super ultra rare piece of armor. And it's like, you know, you could sit there and farm for like an hour and a half and not get it, and it's like, wow, that really sucks. But eventually, you know, you're doing a random strike, you walk up and you get it, it's like, oh my god, like, that's such an exciting feel. And then you can equip it, and then you can show that, like, hey, I have this super mega ultra rare thing that nobody else has, because I got either lucky or because I sat there and farmed it for literally hours and hours and hours on end. I think that could bring life back into these, you know, these areas. But I think one of the major things that Bungie needs to do is just revamp the worlds to not feel bland. You know, one of the issues with, in my opinion, the patrol zones is that they just feel bland. Like, I go to the EDZ, I know where the groups of enemies spawn, I know typically what kind of enemies, I know it's gonna be a couple shanks, couple dregs, blah blah blah, whatever. Like, I know that there's gonna be public events that spawn, but there's nothing really spicy going on. And I think that having just random encounters could really help this. You know, random encounters where, like, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, like, I get a bit of lore. You know, like you can sneak up on like a captain and, you know, a vandal having a conversation that gives you insight to something. You know, lore junkies out there would love stuff like that, you know. Or, you know, like we have the high value targets, for example. Like spice up the high value targets instead of just, oh hey, kill this guy. Like there's more to it than that. And I don't know how Bungie could do it. Like I feel like my creativity is a little bit limited in how they could do that, but have, you know, spicy events, have, you know, dynamic weather. We have dynamic weather of course on Europa, but it's not really the best. I think that, you know, on the EDZ, you know, have it raining, have it sunny, have it, you know, like a thunderstorm, stuff like that would be awesome. But also, because I think the main thing, you know, is adding those little bits that players want. And of course, Destiny is a game about loot, and so I think the key to improving these locations is to bring some loot in there, and it's the way you do it. And you can do that any of the ways we just talked about and more. I know Bungie has like a level of creativity when it comes to stuff like that. Like I know they have the potential to do, you know, to make these really interesting and unique things that happen. Another thing, you know, we talked about the very rare weapons, the very rare shaders, you know, a rare unique armor set, stuff like that. Maybe they could also bring back world specific weapons with some awesome rolls. You know, like imagine if you go to, I don't know, the EDZ and the Lincoln Green is there, and the Lincoln Green was, if I'm not mistaken, is a 540 pulse rifle. It was kinetic damage. Now they've changed it. Now it's strand damage. It's a 540, and it can roll with some really crazy combos, like maybe rapid hit in the first column, which has never been on a 540 pulse rifle. I think that would also get players back into these patrol zones. And again, limiting these weapons to patrol only, and not just like, oh, you can go buy them from the vendor, but I mean actively playing and doing public events and stuff like that. Because if you allow players just buy these, you know, these weapons from a vendor, like it's going to devalue them, you know. And that's one of the issues that's happened from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2 is now like loot is not an issue. Like, getting a god roll is not a problem. I mean, you could get lucky. Just like a couple weeks ago, Banshee sold a god roll Cartesian coordinate, you know, no effort put into it. You know, exotics dropped like candy. And I think that in these patrol zones, like this is a way that Bungie could bring back some of this randomness. Because another thing, and I'm going to get a little tiny bit off topic here, but another thing, you know, that we've talked about that's between a problem with Destiny 2, of course, is that loot grind isn't really there. Like if you have any, you know, substantial amount of time, not even substantial, if you have a decent amount of time to put into the game, which I think most players do. Like obviously there are people like me that like put in a substantial amount of time in during the week, but I think like as a casual player, if you're able to play like 10-12 hours a week, you could probably pull like 3 or 4 god rolls on weapons and armor in that week. Or maybe not god rolls, but very serviceable rolls, you know. And that's one of the issues with Destiny 2. And I think that's, if Bungie were to bring back and rework locations, this is how they could bring back some of that randomness, because they're bringing in a completely new idea. Hey, we're revamping patrols. We want patrols to be a place where players go and have just straight RNG. Like it's the world. There's no, you know, crazy quests on getting certain weapons. Like you get lucky. You open a chest and you happen to get a god roll Lincoln Green. You know, you open a chest and you have a 0.001% chance of getting, you know, this very nice shader. Would people like that? Probably not, but at the same time, it would breathe life back into those. I would love it if they did that. I like the idea of, hey, like, I never know when I'm going to get it, but I know if I put enough time in, I'll hopefully get it. But at the same time, it's not something that's hurting your character to not have. Like, if you don't have a shader, you're not hurting for that. You know, it's different if they put like a weapon roll that has a 0.001%, or a weapon in general that has like a 0.001% chance to drop, and that weapon is insanely good inside of both PvE and PvP activities. But I don't think they should do that. I think they should, you know, keep the super rare stuff to those, you know, those very low numbers. But yeah, like adding weapons that you could chase, you know, currently, for example, we have our ritual playlist weapons, you know, things like Riptide, things like Breakneck, things like, I can't think of, Prolonged Engagement. These are ritual playlist rewards. And one of the things that makes them really unique is that they both, like all these weapons roll with like 12 perks in each of the columns. Like most weapons in the game, I would say have anywhere from 6 4 to 6 perks in the columns, but these random weapons that just drop after strikes and Gambit and Crucible have 12 different perks they can drop in the columns. Have something like that on the EDZ. Lincoln Green, it can drop with 12 different perks in each column. Keeps players going in, you know, you open chests, and maybe there's a higher, maybe there's a 10% chance of a Lincoln Green dropping from a chest, you know, and you get it. Is this a god roll? Nope. Okay, I'm gonna keep farming, or instead of farming, I'm just gonna go farm public events for Glimmer and hope that, you know, in the meantime, I get a really cool Lincoln Green or something along those lines. But yeah, I mean, at this point, I've talked for like 16 minutes now or something. I think that's the way you could do it though. In order to breathe life into these new locations, like, you really wouldn't even need a specific season dedicated to it. You just do these couple things, add loot incentive to these planets that are unique to these planets, and that would bring players in. Now, in terms of these seasonal stories and seasonal revamps, I think that it would be a wonderful idea if Bungie would bring in more story-driven quests in the seasonal activities. Of course, you know, seasonal activity, like we talked about earlier, it typically goes talk to somebody in the helm, then go do this activity, then go kill this type of enemy, then go do the seasonal activity, and your quest for the week is done. Maybe you could have a more story-driven quest that takes place on these locations. Hey, go talk to somebody in the helm. They say, okay, go to the EDZ, and you're looking for, you know, a little hidden tunnel that's here. Okay, so you go into that, you know, you go into that hidden tunnel and there's a chest. Okay, so you open the chest and you get a map or something that gives you a little hint on where the next clue is or where an enemy is that you need to kill. So then you go throughout the EDZ, just for example, and you find, you know, this enemy and you take care of that enemy. And then it's like, okay, we need to talk at the helm because this enemy had something, blah, blah, blah. You go back to the helm, talk to whoever at the helm, and it's like, okay, we need you to do this strike now, or this mission, this seasonal activity or episode activity, I don't know what they're going to call it. So then you go do that, and then it comes back, okay, now we have a very unique mission that takes place on whatever planet, you know, in a unique location. For example, you know, go into the old Burgusian Forge and kill this enemy, or go in here and, you know, fight this enemy. And of course, it's not just go in there and kill the enemy. It's got mechanics to it, you know, throwing a ball at the thing. And I know we've talked before about throwing the ball, that's boring, but that's one of the only mechanics that Bungie has. Like, they could get spicy with mechanics and say, hey, you know, you've got to kill this enemy, and this enemy, and then you can damage the boss, and then you can extend the boss by throwing a ball at you know, a thing or something like that. But, you know, having a unique mission each week that takes place on said planet, or on maybe on different planets, you know, one week is the EDZ, the next week is the Cosmodrome, the next week it's the moon, something like that, I think could definitely help to flesh those locations out and really just put players on those locations more. Yeah, I don't know, that's kind of all I have to say about that. Like I said, Broderick Foster, like that's a great topic. I'm glad you mentioned that. So yeah, I want to hear your thoughts though on, you know, locations. How would you want to see locations revamped to get us back into those? As a seasoned hardcore player, I do not touch patrol zones for any reason. Like, there's no reason to. Fishing was a nice little addition back in the day that brought me back to it for a little bit, but fishing got boring and old, and now it's gone, and it's not even on every location. So, you know, I want some more ideas on how we could make these patrol zones better. So leave those down in the comments. But of course, if you like today's video, drop a like, it helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe for more daily Destiny content. And guys, do me a favor, watch the videos you see here on the end screen, because for whatever reason, YouTube thinks you will like them. I will see y'all next time. Bye for now.